All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Coach Lois. I call myself Coach because I've been in the industry of health and fitness and wellness 17 out of the 23 years of my adult life being in business for myself. I started out as a running coach, health and fitness, helped open up some big box gyms all over the country, became an Ironman triathlete, a marathon coach. I helped coach thousands and thousands, probably it's over 10,000. I lost count in some way, shape, or form into health and fitness. I was also a sales coach for several years and did a lot of work in the network marketing industry as well. Just to give you a quick highlight of who I am and my background. So how the heck did I get to be talking about microdosing in plant medicine? So today's class is called Microdosing in Plant Medicine 101, focusing on psychedelics. We will be talking about both the humble beginnings of plant medicine as well as microdosing and hopefully helping you self-discover if this is the right path for you or someone you care about. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of different testimonials and also very scary experiences. And so I wanted to kind of help answer questions today as well. So hopefully you came with some questions, and I'm going to share with you about an hour total with my information and your questions. So again, make sure you have something to write with and to write on. And if you're watching on the replay, just want to say a quick hello to you. So I now became, after all of this experience in life, a plant medicine woman. My husband became a shaman, reconnecting back to his African lineage. I've been studying plant medicine now for over 2 years. I've sat over 40 plus, again, I've lost count times with psilocybin, ayahuasca, silowasca, San Pedro, and a bunch of other medicines. And I've experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly on that path. And I wanted to be able to use also my experience in coaching those 10,000 plus people in mental health and physical health, now adding what I believe is one of the best spiritual components as a microdosing coach and a plant medicine woman. So that's a little bit about my background. So what I'm going to cover today are 6 things. Number 1, the science and spirituality of sacred plants in microdosing. Again, I am not talking about recreational drugs. I am talking about sacred plant medicine, both microdosing and heroic dose. I'm going to talk about the health benefits, as well as the side effects, things to be aware of, the key do's and don'ts, how to find a reputable source. I'm not going to talk about that too much, but I am going to mention that. So that's why I have it on there. Step number 4. Number 5, the difference between micro and macrodosing, which one may be right for your situation. And if you are like me, how to do both simultaneously, if that is a path for you. And then at the end, I'm going to share about my ayahuasca program that I'm launching in June. So we will have Q&A at the end. So save your questions for the end, okay? And I promise my goal is to give you 40 minutes of training and so on and so forth. So if you can hold your questions till about that 40-minute mark, that would be fantastic. So my story really, by the way, if you stay till the very end, my goal is to be done in an hour, depending on your questions, depending on, how far you want to go. We may go a little bit over. And if you stay till the end, you'll receive a gift from me today. So I always love this quote because I know plant medicine can be controversial, and there can be some belief systems out there that are challenged by this conversation. So I just want to encourage you to come with an open mind, open heart, so that I can have a worthwhile thought dropped into it. There may be some things that trigger you today, and I also want to say that that's okay too. Just want to help kind of set the stage for the conversation we're about to have today. So in 2020, I found myself in a really kind of rock bottom place, we'll call it. My 8 friends who had committed suicide began in 2006. Actually, now I've lost 12 friends. But at that time, I was really hurting, really scared of death, really afraid, didn't really understand a lot of the grief that I was struggling with. I also lost both my parents and my brother between 2018 and 2020. Through that process, I just lost myself in work and binge drinking habits. I was completely uncertain in my marriage. I had become very codependent, very kind of, you know, reliant upon my husband for my happiness and this, that, and the other, which also showed up in business partnerships and other relationships as well. I really lost myself. I felt like a worthless mom as a result of all of the above. I felt lost in my career. I wasn't feeling fulfilled, even though I was making tons of money. Then came the pandemic and being forced to homeschool, even though I never had been trained for that, right? At that time, my kids were 7 and 11, and I was totally numb to life. I don't know if anybody can relate, but I felt like I was on a hamster wheel. So that's where I was at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, okay? I was really stuck in my head, and I had a spiritual mentor who told me, Lois, you got to heal. And I agreed with him, because I felt like if I didn't find something, I was going to either be dead or divorced or both within a couple of years' time. And so I read this book, How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. Type in the chat if you've read that book. It really opened my mind, like literally, and also my heart to recognizing that all of my, results in life, right? And even subconscious mind coaches, I hired them. They didn't really help me at the deepest level possible, because I was so stuck in my analytical masculine side of my head and was on autopilot, go, 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 do, just that hamster wheel that I was talking about. But I will tell you, after reading that book, and after going through the journey that I've gone through, while psychedelic may mean mind manifesting, scientists really studied it first for this. You can go and read a bunch of books, including Michael Pollan's book, and they talk a lot about the brain. And that's cool. Not gonna lie, it did change my default mode network. The plants absolutely did. However, there was so much more that these ancient sacred plants were, I believe, created for than just our head brain. Way, way more than that. I also recognized that part of the brain that we have in our head is there's actually the doing side and the being side. I was reminded of that as I was studying plant medicine. I was going through my journey of really wanting to become a whole, balanced person. And I had been stuck in the doing, the masculine side of the brain, analysis, logic, ideas, facts, math, training. I don't know if anybody has ever felt like, I just need another certification and just to learn more. Instead of being on the opposite side, which is the feminine energies, creativity, intuition, trusting my intuition, my innate wisdom within, being artistic, being creative, feeling, allowing myself to feel emotions, both good and bad. I was so shut down on the feminine side of the brain, my friends, that I didn't think it was okay to cry. I didn't think it was okay to feel scary feelings. I didn't think it was okay to be anxious. I didn't think it was right. I thought I was being a bad person. And as a result of that, I shut down that feminine energy. I also shut down my imagination. So hope I'm tracking with you guys, but just wanted to let you know that that's where I found myself through this process. And then, of course, what I recognized was I also had a lot of unconscious, not just stinking thinking, but unconscious emotional pain inside of me. I had a lot of unresolved grief, a lot of unresolved trauma that I never really faced. I had done a lot of seminars, like if you've ever heard of Landmark or Psi Seminars or EST, I did that stuff. But to be honest with you, it brought up the stuff that I didn't want to feel, and I ran from it. Full disclosure. And Carl Jung is the one who's the unconscious mind / shadow work guru. Historically, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. So I realized I couldn't run anymore. And the only thing that really seemed to help me slow down the mind and go into the heart and the emotional pain body, right? So we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, and my emotional pain body, I didn't want to experience that. However, the plants allowed me to shut off my analytical mind, my default mode network that was running away from the emotional pain body. And it allowed me to face it head on for real. And recognizing that, again, I said this already, and now I'll say it a little bit differently, because a lot of us have heard of Zig Ziglar saying we're spiritual beings having a human experience or a physical experience. I like to say the physical, because once you break down the different parts of our body mind, we recognize that our ego, which you'll hear a lot of people say through plant medicine, they dissolved the ego. I like to say I made friends with my ego. I was a habitual meditator before plant medicine. However, I found most meditations that I was studying or following wanted us to quiet the mind. And a lot of times the ego is like a little toddler. The ego just wants to be seen and be heard and understood. And it's also in some ways trying to protect you from the unconscious mind. That's the feelings, the emotions that guide our decisions and actions, right? So if our unconscious thoughts are, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, right? Then the ego is going to do everything in its power saying, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. We don't want to get rejected. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. Let's just keep you safe. And that's why when you look outside of your life, you look at your marriage, you look at your health, you look at your finances, you look at all of this, you start to realize, whoa, I don't really like this, but how do you change it? Just like me, waking up 40 pounds heavier than I am now, waking up with a lot of shame and guilt around my drinking habit, a lot of worthlessness. My ego was really, really beating the crap out of me and holding me hostage. So I had to change that relationship. So the plant medicine, again, with a lot of help, helped me go into the unconscious, which is what our friend Carl Jung was talking about, going into the depths of hell. That's why I'm saying this path is not for everyone. It's a very brave and courageous path, and was able to get to the roots of the unconscious pain, trauma, and the things that I didn't want to face for a really, really long time, probably about at least, if not my whole life, for sure, the last 15 years. And by tapping into making friends with the ego, by tapping into the unconscious and actually feeling the feels that awakened that feminine part of my brain, it also helped me tap into the superconscious, which is the intuition, which is also that feminine part of the brain. That's where the psychic gifts can lie. I'll talk about that a little bit too, but basically that's the heart space. That's the beauty, the love, the compassion, your zone of genius. When you are just like on fire, you are tapping into that super conscious energy that was here before you were born and will be here after you pass on. And it's really the seat of your soul. It's in your heart. That's the most important brain that I really want to make sure I let you know I connected with at the deepest level. So part of this journey also with the plant medicine reminded me of, and I'm sure I'm reminding you, none of this, you guys, is probably new to you. But it's really, I had a lot of head knowledge, but I didn't connect all of the brains. I had shut down my heart brain. I had shut down my gut brain. So part of what plant medicine reawakened for me also, that you don't hear a lot of people talking about, is the gut brain. That's where we create most of our neurotransmitters and serotonin, 80 to 90%, by the way. So if we don't take care of our gut brain, which the sacred plants will tap into, by the way, and that's where it'll break up what's ever going on inside of you that you can't digest. So a lot of what I had digestive issues my whole life was because of shame, guilt, fear, anger, a lot of these unmetabolized emotions. And no subconscious mind coach, no therapist, no Tony Robbins seminar, not even church was going to help me with that. The sacred plants and all of the tools that I'm going to talk more about helped me awaken that so that I could trust my instincts. I didn't trust myself, guys. And I'd ask you, do you trust yourself? Do you shut down your gut and not listen? Like if you have a feeling about a customer, a business partner, a conversation, even a direction to drive on the way home, and you don't listen to your gut, right? The more you shut that down, like I did, the more I would drink over it, the more I would work over it, the more I would scroll on social media over it. That's a lot of cause of what I found as addictive behaviors, as we shut down our gut brain. Well, the sacred plants helped me heal my gut brain. I won't go into all of the story because we could be here for 5 hours. So I started to awaken my intuition, started to tap into my emotions and my dreams. You can't heal what you can't feel. So I started to feel the feels, the pain, the grief, the trauma, and allowing myself to then connect with the head brain, right? So again, type in the chat if you're still with me, because this is a lot. Type in the chat if you're still with me. I told you I'm going to fire a lot of information. Type in the chat saying, I got you, Lois. I hear you. I'm with you. You can even type in the chat, Lois, I'm confused. You lost me. I'd love to know where you guys are at. Let's see, where are we at? Blowing your mind. Okay, good. I'm with you. Certainly. Awesome. Here. Yay, Mary, I see you. Awesome. Paul, thank you. Rachel, beautiful. Okay, cool. So part of the process, and again, I could probably lecture on this for hours, so that's why I save your questions for the end. But part of what helped me connect those 3 brains with the medicine was also purging. The Body Keeps the Score. Now, not everyone likes this book. There's other ones that I could recommend, but it's the first one I read that helped me really connect and understand that I had so relied on my brain, head brain, and was numbing as much as I could my body, because there was so much trauma and emotions and stuck energies that was screaming at me like a toddler saying, mommy, mommy, pay attention. I'm here. Why aren't you listening to me? And I was just so not wanting to deal. But what you resist persists. Not everybody likes that saying. I know that saying pissed me off a lot, but now I say it because it's true. When your body's holding on to trauma, grief, anxiety, depression, the stuff that we don't always like to talk about, right? It's got to get out somehow. So between ayahuasca and psilocybin, as well as something called combo frog medicine, not talking much about that today, all of these things helped me wake up the body, helped me release tears, poop. Yes, I said it. Poop, pee, vomit, shaking, releasing. And keep in mind, this was mostly on the macro dose, which I'll talk about again later, the difference. But yes, some of it happened on microdosing. That's why I'm a big fan of you not microdosing or macro by yourself, because as you're releasing this, it can be it's like reliving the trauma. So the body keeps the score because as humans, we're not like animals. Animals, they actually allow the loop to complete and the trauma releases their body. But as humans, we have these brains, and we have the reptilian brain and the fear and all of the stuff and life. We live in this concrete jungle. This is not like the Amazon, right? So we have a lot of things that can stop us from releasing the trauma. And I'm here to tell you, it's really ourselves that stop us. But to be able to get it out faster, better, and again, in a safe, contained, supported environment, there's been nothing that's helped me more than these medicines, along with other tools that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So purging that can help you heal the mind. You can heal the mind, not through the mind, because the mind created this mess. You got to heal it through the body, the heart, the 3 brains that I was talking about. The other component, so we talked about the mind, we talked about the body, we talked about now the spirit, the entheogens. That's what the shamans, and I actually prefer, I don't really like the word psychedelic. I say it because it's the most commonly used, but it just focuses on the head brain and the mind and the visuals and, all of that. But the beauty, the magic is inside of you. You are the medicine. You all have divine essence, superconscious God, source, creator energy inside of you. I denied myself that because I was taught, I was brought up in a not good or bad. Okay. I just want to be clear, in a very dogmatic, more controlled, look outside yourself for the answers environment. One of the wounds I healed was the religion wound, and not really understanding my true essence within You know, the true essence of what the shamans teach is they use these sacred plants to help you go within, to commune with God, source, creator, divine, whatever you call it, whatever you believe in. I'm equal opportunity here. I love everyone now because I understand we are all on our own path, right? But to go within and connect with the divine within also helps heal dis-ease. When you're not always looking outside yourself for answers, coping mechanisms, not trusting yourself, creating more and more evidence that you're a fuck up, pardon the expression, right? Those were all the reasons that I was afraid to go inside also, is to not only feel the feels and heal, but I didn't want to make mistakes, right? I was afraid of being wrong, because that's what a lot of organized things teach us, that we have to rely on the answers outside of ourselves. The shamans would heal schizophrenia with sacred plants because the answers were lying within the body, within the spirit, within side of your innate wisdom. And the sacred plants are helping you quiet this overanalytical mind and maybe obsessed with looking outside itself for the answers, so that you could go find that deep stillness within. And so when you have the mind, body, spirit alignment, that's when anything is possible. That's when anything is possible again, yet it's also can be a very scary, dangerous path. So let's talk a little bit more about that. One of the documentaries I watched. I've read a lot, I've watched a lot, I've studied a lot, I've been mentored a lot. So The Wisdom of Trauma. Type in the chat if you have seen this. Type in the chat if you've seen The Wisdom of Trauma. Phenomenal documentary. If you haven't, go check it out. So Gabor Mate talks about our deepest pain can be a doorway to our healing. And that's a lot of what I learned, is a lot of addictive behaviors, depression, anxiety, again, is because we haven't gone within to heal. And psychotherapy, while yes, it can work, it can also, in some respects, keep us in that loop. Because again, you can't heal the mind with the mind. You may want to write that down. You can't heal the mind with the mind. That's why affirmations and going to yet another seminar, another rah-rah speech isn't necessarily going to fix you, right? First of all, you're not broken, so you don't need to be fixed. But the real beauty in this documentary is he talked about how the ayahuasca and the psilocybin and the sacred plants can help you enter that doorway of healing, as long as, again, you're working with a guide, you're getting support, you're not trying to do it yourself. So what seeds are you going to plant with plant medicine? What will you unearth, and are you ready? Because if you think about what I've shared with you so far, mind, we get stuck in a loop. There's a default mode network, autopilot, that gets us in this loop, in this hamster wheel, autopilot driving, right? But then you start recognizing and feeling the emotions and feelings, waking up the 3 different brains, the mind, the heart, and the gut. But then there's going to be the spirit, the soul, the seed of the soul that's been holding on to this pain. I had like a brick wall around my heart, and I pulled away brick by brick by brick. I've had other people in my life do the same, and some repressed trauma came up. Some repressed things that I've done in my life came up, that it turns out later, oh my gosh, I was drinking over that. I wasn't trusting my intuition, right? Or I was working over that. So you got to be ready if this is the path for you. And there are some people who are saying, I don't want to go there. I'm happy at status quo, right? So you just got to think about that. Are you really ready? Because every flower must grow through dirt. So there's going to be some mud, some muck and mire. There's going to be some pain. There's going to be some stuff that comes up for you. And it's definitely a brave and courageous path. However, our past will always still be our future until you have the courage to create a new one. So by going back into, and I'm going to give you some stories and some examples here shortly, but going back into my past, and even, yes, past lives, some ancestral trauma came through for me, all of that. Now I'm a completely different person. I mean, at my core, my essence, I'm really just reconnected with my inner child. I've healed a lot of that, coming back into the feminine and masculine brain, coming more from a balanced space. It's going to create a new future for you. So you also got to be ready, willing, and able for that. So here's some testimonials, some stories, and also some wounds. I'm not going to go through every single one of them because it was a lot. Keep in mind, I started in April of 2021 and have sat over 40 times, and I've microdosed on and off throughout that 2-year period and been trained and so on and so forth. So I've done a lot of work, and it wasn't just with the plant medicine. I'm going to explain more about what else I used, because the plant medicine by itself didn't help me with all of this. It was just opening a doorway to knowing what's possible, knowing what I even needed to heal, knowing what I repressed, knowing what I didn't ever even know about because of ancestral wounds and ancestral trauma. Okay. So first and foremost, I worked on the mother-father wound. I've been training a lot on this lately. A lot of people have family of origin wounds, whether you knew them or not. Maybe you were adopted. There's a lot there. And psychotherapy, unfortunately, did not work for me. And so underneath the guidance of ayahuasca and San Pedro, and these were both deep dives, but also even microdosing, because I've microdosed with both, I was able to connect on the other side of the veil. Remember, when you do plant medicine, even microdosing, you're opening yourself up to the other side. Again, whatever that means for you. I don't want to go into all of those definitions right now, but I was able to connect with my mom and dad who had both passed. I was able to cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and release a lot of grief from both childhood wounds, because my mom was a schizophrenic. My dad was never emotionally available. So there's a lot of abandonment from my in utero throughout my adult life, right? And so by being able to heal a lot of that, that's where a lot of my weight loss began. That's where a lot of my softening, acceptance, forgiveness, and delicious, just heart opening began. I even felt under San Pedro, the ability then to actually tap into what we call the masculine wound on my dad's side of my family. I actually felt physical purging and energetic release with the San Pedro. Ancestral trauma, another ayahuasca story. I actually had the opportunity to sit with my ancestors and learn from them underneath the heroic dose, again, with the guidance of a facilitator, understanding the shame and the trauma from generations back that my family was holding on to, that I was embodying, because we carry 7 generations of DNA back on both sides, to then finally purge it. So as I healed myself, I healed my ancestors. As I healed myself, I healed my descendants. So it's a win-win-win. When you do this kind of work, you're healing your children and future generations. San Pedro helped me with digestive issues, which helped my autoimmune disease. I've dropped over 100 points, going back to get a checkup this summer to find out where I'm at. But that was huge. Hello. How many people out in the world have an autoimmune disease, right? My addictive behaviors, I had a beautiful multiple journeys helping me understand why I was turning to alcohol, people pleasing. Addictive behaviors just aren't things like social media, porn, sex, alcohol, cigarettes. Those actually are usually the last things that show up. The core of those addictive behaviors are those wounds, oftentimes abandonment, not feeling worthy, trust wound. There's a lot of different wounds that I could go into. But once I unpacked those wounds, I was able to slowly, mind you, it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen just with microdosing 1 month, and it didn't happen with one deep dive. It was a matter of slowly understanding and getting to those roots and pulling them out. I even had an opportunity to, my brother had died of alcoholism. I even had an opportunity to commune with him under the plant medicine and get to see his wounds and his life. And since he had sort of raised me, he had then projected some of that onto me, right? Not good or bad. I don't blame him. It was just part of that karmic dance that we have with other souls in our life, parents, siblings, partners, right? I also got to connect and reframe my relationship with suicide and grief. I've seen almost all 12, actually only 9 out of the 12 of my friends who committed suicide, and connected with them energetically, and was able to cry and mourn and grieve and even connect with them in a clairaudient way, understanding why they took their own life and what messages they had for me to carry ahead to the living, and to really deepen my sense of purpose. I also worked through a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, fear, still on that journey. I'm human after all. I've lost almost 40 pounds and I've kept it off because, again, having been in the fitness industry, having helped thousands and thousands of people on getting off medications, as well as physical weight, training for marathons and such, it's not just a physical and a mental experience. It's a physical, mental, emotional, brave, and courageous journey that, again, comes back to that spiritual inner journey, that inner work that is more important than the workout, more important than even the food you eat or the drink you drink. It's also radically changed my marriage, my relationship with my kids, and my friendships. And part of what I really, by studying the wisdom of trauma, now inside of my subscription, I include a doctor that I worked with who does breath work specifically for the central nervous system. Because as you purge this stuff energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally, you got to have support. You got to have tools. The plant medicine could actually make things a lot worse for you if you don't process the trauma, if you don't journal, if you don't integrate what it is that's coming up for you. I had a near, almost, I would say, dare say, a psychotic breakdown as a result of not properly integrating the messages that I was getting and the trauma that I was releasing. So if you identify with any of these trauma responses on the slide, yes, plant medicine could very well help you get to the root cause. It's just A, you got to be ready, and B, you got to be supported with integration tools on top of that. So in summary, before I go on to the next thing, the mind, the body, the spirit, this is a mind, a body, and a spiritual path. This isn't just a mental path. This isn't just a physical path. This isn't just a spiritual path. That's from my own experience, training, but then also everything that I didn't do that now I wish I would have done differently, because I began just thinking it was my mind that was messed up and my default mode network and all of the things. But I had to release a lot of trauma from the body and go within to process it in a loving, self-compassionate way. So yes, there are endless benefits. A lot of my clients have talked about better focus, higher levels of creativity, relief from depression, having more energy, checking things off their to-do lists, emotionally being more open, having confrontations with your partner or your spouse, or business partners. I've actually changed a lot of business partnerships as a result of this plant medicine, and friendships, all for greater good, right? All for greater good. Help quit coffee and other substances, relief from menstrual pain if you're a female, and then of course the heightened spiritual awareness is beyond incredible. Another reason that I'm, talking more about this is if you are into this, if this resonates with you, it may not. We're in the age of Aquarius. So a lot of people are having what we call a spiritual awakening. I also mentioned the divine feminine energies because we've been very patriarchal, masculine for so many thousands of years. And we're also, by the way, healing the divine masculine energies and realigning them. I think that's why I'm having this brain, balancing and rebalancing. Some people call it the Kundalini awakening. if you don't know what to call it, just call it like an age of enlightenment, right? People are waking up to their truth. Healers are becoming extra powerful. More people are uncovering psychic gifts. My husband is a ghost whisperer now. I've had lots of clients who are now connecting more with their guides, God, source, creator. People are wanting to change their careers and earn the living in a meaningful way. So hence the great resignation, right? People are less willing to compromise in love. Yes, a lot of people are getting divorced or breaking up, partnerships, things of that nature. A lot of that is falling away. How are you holding yourself through that? It's just more difficult to conform. We've been living in a world of conformity for a really, really long time, keeping up with the Joneses, comparing yourself to someone else on Facebook. It doesn't really matter. None of that stuff matters anymore. You have something unique to offer to the world. How are you going to self-discover that? Is plant medicine the right tool for you? So here's a few quick testimonials. For some reason, their name didn't show up on the slide here, but this person says, holy cow, 1 week into microdosing, and I'm already cutting back on alcohol consumption and the shame around that. I also have noticed that my sense of smell is improving. I've had a very poor sense of smell for about 20 years due to lots of sinus infections into sinus surgeries. I'll talk about that in a second. I've had significant improvement in my smell. I didn't realize this could impact swelling and inflammation in my sinuses. Thank you, Lois. And the medicine. He was one of my 30-day JUMPSTART clients. When you heal the gut, I had a lot of sinus infections as a kid. I had a lot of sickness as a kid, ear and sinus infection. So a lot of that gut healing will reduce the inflammation and absolutely can help impact a lot of different senses, right? Because you're embodying change and your 5 senses are really, really connected to that gut brain. So it's a beautiful thing. Next person. This person had sleeping issues, a stressful corporate job, as well as a challenging marriage. I don't always put people's names either because of personal reasons, obviously, but she's sleeping so much better thanks to microdosing and the online meditations and breathwork classes that I include for my microdosing clients. She doses and meditates before bed Monday through Thursday, and her life is so much better with improved sleep and a balanced body mind. She's handling and responding to arguments and stressors at work and at home so much better. This is Josh. I got his name on here and he was cool with me sharing it. He came to me because of chronic pain. He didn't know much more. Like chronic pain was what he'd been researching, but it also helped him decrease his physical pain, his improvement in his sleep. He's dreaming more, which is actually a good sign. I'll talk about that later. Drinking less alcohol and significantly decreased his daily soda habit. He used to drink 2 to 3 Diet Pepsis a day and now only has 3 cans of soda in the last 4 weeks of working with Lois. And he's actually continued on beyond my 30-day JUMPSTART. So a lot can happen in 30 days if you have support, if you have a guide, and of course, if you surrender to the medicine and to the process. That's another important thing to write down. Someone had asked me this question, and I don't think she's on. I just want to acknowledge you for Paula, I think it was, had asked about side effects. I had not included that last month, so I wanted to include that. Because yes, there are side effects, and this is why I've become way, way, way more vocal about this, because everyone and their brother is talking about microdosing and plant medicine. Everybody thinks it's just something that it's a DIY experience, and all of a sudden everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And I'm here to tell you that's not what happened for me. And I've also heard just again this past week, someone had a psychotic breakdown and ended up in the hospital just from microdosing. Okay. So these sacred plants are powerful. It's not a supplement. It's not something that you just take and, go to work. There's a process and a sacred practice to create with it to also support you as these side effects can and will happen for you. First few days, you can have a detox. That could be loose stools, diarrhea, brain fog, fatigue, cramping in the gut, because your gut brain is probably not healthy. And that's mostly with psilocybin, but I've also had that happen with Ayahuasca clients as well. 50% of the time, if you do it consistently, and we'll talk about what all that means, it will bring up trauma. It will bring up trauma release. Okay. How do you hold yourself through that? How do you respond versus react? And what do you do with that? Right? Can also bring up anxiety, sadness, development of spiritual gifts, which can be scary. It can bring up dreams, possibly nightmares. I can tell you really for like 6 months, actually, I had some really gnarly dreams and woke up in fear almost every day. And again, I'm not saying that you're going to do what I have chosen to do, because I became a student, studied it, and took the shamanic path. I'm not teaching you here today to take the shamanic path. I'm just teaching you about the fundamentals and the basic. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A feature. I'm just going to throw it out there. Start putting questions in the Q&A feature, so I make sure I honor those questions. Okay, so the Q&A feature is like at the bottom. It says Q&A. Just click on it, and it'll give you the opportunity to put your question there. Because if you put it in the chat, I'm so sorry. I'm human. I may miss it, and I want to make sure I check it off in the Q&A feature. Okay. It can change your sleep, and you're not sure what to do that, right? Because it can cause those changes as you're working with your brain, you're working with your gut brain, you're working with that spiritual stuff, right? Potential major life changes, right? I had massive changes in my career, massive change in relationships, coming back to my true nature and purpose. That can also be very scary, because it's like what they call an ego death. Right? I like to call it, more of that making friends with your ego, coming back to your true nature and purpose. But because I think the ego death thing is really, 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 really scary. I had a semblance of that, and that was part of like what I call my psychotic breakdown. If I didn't have true integration, I probably would have ended up in the hospital. I'm just cutting it to you straight, keeping it real. And are you really, really ready for what you're going to face? Are you really, really ready for what you will face? I also want to mention that medications mostly aren't okay. So if you're on a bunch of medications, you first of all, talk to me privately, talk to your doctor. You need to get it approved with your doctor. Okay. Do not go off medications and do microdosing. Okay. We got to be very, very careful. I even have an extensive medical intake form. I'm not a doctor, but I still want you to work with your doctor. So I just wanted to reiterate on that, how important it is to ensure that you're safe. And again, not doing this on your own. At the very least, talk to your doctor about it. Okay. So, So I'm now going to share, I've already shared some, I just got a little bit to go here, guys. So you can go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A feature. Again, like I said, some do's and don'ts. So when I started 2 years ago, these are the things I wish I knew that I didn't know. And I'm just going to talk to you now. So feel free to take notes on this part. It's really important. I didn't want to put a bunch of words on the screen. I just wanted to have a direct conversation with you on this part. So ultimately, regardless what you've heard and what you've seen out there, I consider this a healing path. So it's not a quick fix. It's not a cure-all. And again, the plant medicine by itself isn't the whole real deal. It's a journey that takes time. So if you're serious, number one, don't rush it. Number two, it really is, if I were to recommend it, it's like a 6-month path. It's not something that you do forever, unless it becomes a spiritual path for you. That is an option. It is not a daily thing like supplements. When you're microdosing, for example, there's a few different ways of doing it. You can do 4 days on, 3 days off. You can do 5 days on, 2 days off. I do not recommend just a straight 30 days. So with my 30-day jumpstart clients, they do 4 to 5 days on, 2 to 3 days off. So you allow time for integration. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. Basically, it's processing. It's taking what you learned with the plant medicine over here and applying it, processing it, whether that's through journaling, breath work, meditation, yoga, exercise, dance, music, painting, artistry, that feminine side of the brain, which also connects you with the body, embodying what it is that you are getting from the medicine. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day either. So those small sustainable changes, I have had clients come to me who are, addicted to alcohol, porn, and social media and news apps on their phone. Well, guess what? In the first 30 days, we were able to get rid of, 2, and cut way back on the other 2, but we're still on the path, right? And there can be relapses as you're healing. There's always, a few steps forward, a few steps back. I didn't go from drinking 4 bottles of wine a week to escape to, seeing it as a healthy ritual with alcohol. So it takes time. So at least especially if you're trying to change your brain, your health, your patterns, give it 6, maybe even 12 months. And of course, making sure that you have a guide. Whether it's me or someone else, just make sure you have support, accountability, and someone to help you process the information that's coming through. Maybe whether it's a therapist, maybe your doctor, but I would recommend a healer of some sort, or again, someone like me who's doing this professionally. That's a huge important component, because as you're maybe having those re-triggered traumas, needing guidance on how you work, how do you do your Monday through Friday job? How do you best do, is it morning or noon or night? How do you eat? All of those kinds of things. I said this already, but do get your doctor's approval, and really make sure that this is the right path for you, not just because your buddy found it and it worked for them. Really sit with your spirit and your heart and make sure that it's something that you're really committed to. Now, that being said, I used to sell supplements. I used to sell shakes and, coffee. And a lot of times that's why I recommend my 30-day jumpstart, because then you decide whether or not it's for you, because you don't know what you don't know until you jump in the deep end of the pool. Right. So you can give it a shot, but then beyond that, take it serious and go 6 months, give or take. So you get lasting change. Lasting results. You didn't happen overnight. I was 43 or 42 when I started this path. So I had over 4 decades of programming, over 4 decades of trauma, and addictive behaviors on top of all of that, right? So just give yourself time and spaciousness. Again, I already talked about the side effects. So just being mindful of that, being aware that you could have anxiety, brain fog, diarrhea, loose stools. Just be aware of that and be okay with that. It's also where if you start the path, maybe create more spaciousness in your life. I say 1 hour a day committed to this path is a great way to build a meditation practice. So do build a meditation practice with the medicine, whether you do it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, or just before you go to bed, or skip lunch, do it in the middle of the day. Again, talking about microdosing here now. You also want to consider lifestyle assessments, alterations. Take a look at your nutritional path. Take a look at your gut health path. Take a look at your cravings. The number one reason I came to this was because I didn't want to become an alcoholic. I didn't want to stay on that path, right? So just making sure that you might even want to consider food journaling and just making sure that you're looking at all areas of your life holistically. I already talked a little bit about the integration process. Again, make a short list of things that will help you integrate: journaling, having an accountability partner, working out or exercise, music. I tapped back into music as a result of this path. Now I sing and dance and beat on a drum. I had completely shut that part of myself down. So maybe there's a part of you, my husband became a painter. Maybe there's a part of you that's just dying to get out. That's the feminine side of the brain, so that you also become more receptive and open and laugh and play. Even having I have a sacred rage practice now. Part of my integration is screaming and yelling and beating the shit out of my drum and letting that anger metabolize and process. Okay. Let's talk about macrodosing here first for a second. And actually, let me quickly, this was part of one of my 6 things. Let me quickly talk about what the difference is between micro and macro. So microdosing is usually 500 milligrams of psilocybin, or San Pedro or ayahuasca or less. So write that down, 500 milligrams or less usually. Okay. Ayahuasca drops is depending on the situation, it's a tincture, liquid form, 10 drops or less. Again, everybody's different on this. That's why there's no one size fits all. Some people, 0.5 gram is a macro dose. So it depends on how much PTSD, trauma, how sensitive you are. Again, that's why you don't do this on your own. You don't want to end up in the hospital or harm yourself. That kind of thing. Macro dose then is 500 milligrams or higher, or in the case of like ayahuasca, because it's a liquid, in some cases San Pedro too, you're going to be drinking multiple cups. So psilocybin, ayahuasca, 0.5 gram or higher. And again, that's the macro is more for the deep dive, a lot more purgatory, a lot more intense emotionally, only to be done in a sacred ceremonial setting, not to be done on your own for your own safety. And then of course, both require integration, breath work, yoga, being kind to yourself, creating more spaciousness in your life, maybe a social media detox to help you be less triggered by external things. Because when the medicine is in you, as within, so without, it's trying to break through some of the anxiety, some of the trauma, some of the things inside of your gut brain that then all impact here, right? So you are going to get emotional. You are going to have stuff come up. It's supposed to be that way. That's why it's not for everyone. And again, not to be done on your own. So macrodosing, I recommend, depending on the person and how much trauma you have or what your goals are, you could do that twice a year if you wanted, maybe once a quarter if you're on a more accelerated path. Microdosing, you can do, the 4 days on, 3 days off variety for up to 6 months. You might want to take a break, at the end of like a couple months. Again, this is a consultative basis where you really got to sit with a guide or someone like myself to help you make the best decision for you, along with consulting your therapist or your doctor. Okay. Rachel asks, is it always better to microdose at night? No. I'm actually a huge fan of the morning, Rachel, no matter what medicine. However, the word always is what caught me off there. It's independent. Each person, it depends on their lifestyle. It depends on their goals. Go ahead and put the questions and I'm just going to start answering those here now. Remember, stay till the end. I have a gift for you and I'm going to talk about my ayahuasca program here in just a few moments. So hopefully you guys can stick around. Anonymous attendee, how long have you done this for? Yes, thank you. So I started in April of 2021. The whole first year was healing, deep dive, trauma release, also made a lot of mistakes along the way, sat with some not ideal groups and things of that nature, learned the hard way. The industry doesn't support integration, most groups that you sit with. And the reason I started microdosing coaching is because nobody had a structured microdosing program that I knew. So I wanted to start one. I've been a health and fitness coach for almost 23 years, nutrition, a lot of certifications, yoga, Ayurvedic medicine. And then I became trained over the past year, initiated with plant medicines. Also, that's why I have doctors inside of my program, because I have people that I can consult with and help my clients with, so that we do right and do no harm. That's my first rule. Why you also don't want to do this on your own is the do no harm rule, and making sure people are working still with the therapist and in conjunction with whatever they need. holistically to support them on this path, because it can be a dangerous path if you're not careful. What is the difference between psilocybin and ayahuasca? Huge difference. I don't have enough time to talk about all of that here. Psilocybin is a mushroom, so I believe it's been around for billions of years. So again, some people might disagree with me, but it's definitely more what I would call the gut brain healing. It can be more playful, but it can also, be more challenging. It depends on the person and their background and their experience and their goals. Again, it's not like a supplement. It's not like a pharmaceutical. Everybody's going to have a different experience with it. Mushrooms are my favorite to macrodose. Ayahuasca is from the vine, from the jungle of Brazil, Amazon primarily. It can be grown in Hawaii. It can be grown here in Southwest US. And I would say from a deep dive perspective, ayahuasca is way more intense, brings up a lot more trauma, and it causes you to purge, vomit more, whereas the mushrooms don't. So that's like a Cliff Notes version of the difference. And scientifically, I just don't have the time to go into all of that. We could be here for like 5 hours. Whew, any more questions, guys? I want to wrap it up. Let me see. I already talked about taking weeks off. Find your best tools. Like I said, breath work, yoga, all of the things that can help you. I do have another tip. I want to share my screen so that I'm going to talk about my ayahuasca program here as well. So I don't see any more questions in the Q&A feature, so I'm going to keep going. A lot of that, the transformation and the change for me helped because of journaling and having a guide, having someone to process this stuff with, who was experienced with the medicine. I didn't work with a psychotherapist much. I did a little, but not a lot. So just stay with me a second. Lily, I'm going to get to my program here. Journal prompts that I encourage you to write down and use. And this is part of what I coach on inside of my program. But what will I let go? What will I release? Intentions, energy flows where intention goes. So I've learned how to set intentions in such a way that I get more out of the medicine than if I don't. What will I let go? What will I release? What will I call in? So if I'm letting go of scarcity and lack, I'm calling in abundance. If I'm letting go of fear and anxiety, I'm calling in love and compassion, acceptance. And then, of course, how will I stay the course? How will I stay the course? That's the most important thing. How will I stay the course? Because it's going to bring stuff up. And you got to decide if you have the emotional resilience and a big enough why, because you want to change. You're tired of the status quo. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired. How are you going to stay the course when the icky stuff comes up for you? Because it will bring up the icky stuff. Can be very confrontational. So that's all of the education. I'm going to talk about my program now, but I also wanted to let you know, if you haven't already subscribed to my podcast, I'm going to be having more and more interviews on these topics, bringing in spiritual advisors, integration experts, other plant medicine experts, shamans, so on and so forth. So tune into my podcast, Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. Part of my passion and why I came out of spiritual closet and then came out as a plant medicine closet person, I want to help 1,000 people be and become their highest and best version of themselves this year, having created their best health, their best wealth through trusting their best wisdom, both with plant medicine and without, because it's definitely not a path for everyone. This is just my reminder. If you stay till the very end, I have a gift for you. So I'm almost there. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. In June, I'm launching an ayahuasca microdosing program. I've microdosed with psilocybin, San Pedro, ayahuasca, and psilohuasca. I do work with those for any clients who want to work with me one-on-one, but I'm doing my first ever beta program. So beta means early adopters, first time. where I want to help you heal your heart, connect and heal your mind, and revitalize your spirit. So that mind, body, spirit approach that I specialize in, that I learned quite often the hard way, what the plants could do, and what's possible. I want you to learn everything I've learned in 2 years. Hopefully, if you're coachable, teachable, and trainable anyway, and you're open and you trust the process, that's my goal, is to help you transform yourself in June so that you can transform your summer. So if you want to, if this calls to you, if you are curious, if you want to soften into your feminine energies, building that feminine side of the brain, the intuition, the love, the compassion, the receptivity, the creativity, healthier boundaries, that's the feminine side. If you want to improve mental health, if you want to improve your anxiety, if you want to shift your relationship with alcohol or food or cravings that might be impacting your daily life or your weight, if you want to sleep better, if you want to feel more conscious and expanded in your body, mind, if you want to create a deeper mindfulness and meditation practice, I invite you to apply to be a part of this beta program. It includes weekly group meetings and a group chat. It's an encrypted app that we use for the chat. Plus, you'll also have a one-on-one consultation intake call that's personalized to you. So you'll get to be a part of a group. The curriculum is designed to help you with that mind, body, spirit awakening. And I will have a couple of guest experts on as well to help guide you through the process. I will include my Healthy and Wealthy and Wise Fundamentals online portal. So 24/7, you'll have access to breathwork for trauma, breathwork for grief, Kundalini for trauma, Kundalini for addictive behaviors, meditation classes, super conscious creation, which is what I call the fancy term for what Carl Jung calls shadow work, and the unconscious work. And then, of course, nutrition classes on everything from Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine, how food is your medicine, not an escape, to help your gut heal faster, better, stronger, so that you can absorb the medicine faster, better, stronger. So that's also included. So early bird discount, if you sign up by next Wednesday, it's only $375, one-time investment. And yes, I am requiring the use of ayahuasca. That includes the medicine. So you don't have to go and find a source. And oh my gosh, I've thrown away a lot of money, a lot of time, and literally pissed away a lot of product. So you won't have a bad source, a dangerous source, and it's tried and true and tested and beautiful, honestly. After June 1st, if you don't sign up, it'll be $425, still a smoking deal. My goal is to start by no later than mid-June. The date will be determined by you and by the people that do or do not sign up. And then in the future, after this program, this beta core offer, it'll be $997. So you can save almost 60% if you jump in now. Again, I do recommend that you consider a longer path, of course, but like I said, I start people off for 30 days just to see, is this really for you? Are you really, 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 really ready for this change, for this growth opportunity, for what may come up for you that could be a little scary, right? I also do have access to 4 trusted sources. So if you work with me outside of this 4-week program, which is the best, the most affordable deal, I do have access to psilocybin, ayahuasca, although that's only for advanced people. It's pretty intense, or San Pedro, also known as Wachuma. So is there any other questions? I went pretty fast. I know I went over. Really grateful for those of you. Dennis has asked a question. What are the legalities in different states? Due to the nature of that, I won't be able to talk about that today. Do your research. Part of the journey is it's still a slippery slope. And that's all I can say on a forum like this. So just do your research. And obviously that's another reason why this path is not for everyone. You got to decide what's in your ethics, your morals, your values. I don't know where I'd be today if I hadn't just gone in and trusted divine creator, source energy, that all would be well. And I also am actually concerned when it is legalized, how many people will abuse it and actually get hurt by these sacred plants, because it's not something that I feel like can actually really be mass produced and utilized as like a supplement or what have you. I think it's more for deep dive healing and more for trauma release and more for expansion of your spiritual self. But then even that can be dangerous. It's just not the same as buying shakes and lotions and potions and pills, or being on pharmaceuticals. It's just so different from anything else. Lily, great question. How do you know if you'd benefit more from ayahuasca or psilocybin? That would be hop on a call with me, and trust your intuition. Who or what do you feel called to? That's one of the things that I learned was, I felt called to start with psilocybin. And then over time, literally all of a sudden one day, I just got a message like, hey, grandmother ayahuasca was calling me. So it's very spiritual. It's very intuitive. It's not a one size fits all. That's why it's really important to work with a guide who knows what they're doing. I'm even concerned, like within the psychotherapy community, you know, if people don't have a relationship with the medicine, I also wouldn't work with them. Like if you're sitting with people, make sure they have a relationship with the medicine, and they really know what they're doing. There's a lot of things that I could go into on that, but I'd say trust your gut, do your own due diligence, talk to a doctor if you want. Otherwise, I just dropped in the chat my microdosing for health consultation. And yes, the free gift. So I've held you over, so I apologize. So for those of you who are here right now, email me, Lois at loiscoffee.com before 2:45. Email me, Lois at loiscoffee.com before 2:45, and ask for the slides. I will send you a copy of the slides. Got to get it to me before 2:45 p.m. Pacific. It's 2:37 right now. So that's my free gift for those of you that stayed till the end. We got another question. Do you have a program? Yes. For psilocybin, that would be my one-on-one 30-day challenge. Absolutely. Yeah. So the 30-day challenge, I talked about that on last month's call. It's also similar price as the group program, the beta that I just offered. The 30-day challenge is $400. So, but I'd still hop on the consultation link that I put in the chat and book a time. Because again, it's consultative. I'm going to ask you some questions to help you self-discover which medicine is the right one for you. And I chose the group for ayahuasca for a variety of reasons. The primary one is I'm actually going to be offering up a Lois and Friends group ayahuasca ceremony this fall. And I thought it'd be fun to get people ready for that. Ayahuasca is also one of those that's really, really hard to find and really, 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 really challenging to find a good group to sit with. You don't have to go to South America. You don't have to go to Costa Rica. I've got a phenomenal group that you can sit with that's safe and high quality and high caliber. So I can make recommendations for those macrodoses, but I took me a long time to find a good ayahuasca microdosing source. So that's partially why I'm doing the group program as well. Any other questions? Make sure you email me. I got just a couple of quick announcements before we wrap it up. For those of you who do want to do deep dives, for those of you who do want to consider this path seriously, we have monthly opportunities here in San Diego. June 10th, there's a Phoenix opportunity, and this is all with psilocybin. On June 10th, we're going to be focusing on the masculine wound, the father wound for Father's Day. And then August 12th, there's going to be a deep dive in Minnesota. And then of course, I have other referrals, like I just mentioned, upon request. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Lily. And then of course, last but not least, I'm also looking to mentor people one-on-one. If this is a path, like that's the path that I ended up going on. I wanted one-on-one. I was having way too much trauma, way too much stuff, way too many challenges with my addictions, way too much grief. So I chose the one-on-one mentorship path, full disclosure, to get to where I'm at now. So if you have more stuff to work through, that's where that one-on-one mentorship may be a really, really good idea. So you can email me about that as well. All right, so no more questions, guys. That was a lot. This is only my 4th time teaching this, and I added more stuff because people had questions. Katie, I hope you got your questions answered. I know you had some really good ones. Thank you, Adina. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Natalie, for being here, and Paul. And who else we got? Rye. I will get the recording out and email it to you, if not by tomorrow, by Saturday. So please spread the word about this. And I always like to end with a quote. This is a powerful one that helped me actually feel very convicted to go on this path. Confucius said, and remember, no matter where you go, there you are. For things to change, you've got to change. For things to get better, you've got to be better. When I started this path, I had just moved from Minnesota to California, and I thought, oh, I moved, life will be better now. Well, nope. Guess what? I was still me, and I was still following me. And so if you really want to change your external world and you feel called to this path, it's got to be really in your heart and something that resonates with you. I would be honored to support you, to love on you, to guide you, to encourage you, and to give you the tools that I wish I would have had when I started. So I can save you time, money, and help you in a safe, safe, compassionate, we'll call it, container. All right. You're welcome. Thanks, guys. Have a beautiful day. Many blessings to you, love and light and compassion, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye for now.